June looked up at the night sky through his telescope. The stars shone brightly above the mountains outside Seoul. He sighed and checked his watch. It was almost midnight, but he didn't feel tired at all. Another night. Another search, he said, to himself, adjusting the settings on his computer. June was 32 years old and worked as an astronomy professor at Seoul National University. Unlike his colleagues, he didn't just study stars and planets. He looked for signs of life beyond Earth. Many people laughed at his work, but June didn't care. He believed that humans couldn't be alone in such a vast universe. His small cabin in the mountains served as both his home and personal research station. It was filled with books, star charts, and equipment that blinked with tiny lights. The walls were covered with posters showing distant galaxies and star systems. June rubbed his eyes and was about to take a break when his computer started beeping loudly. He jumped to check the screen. The signal detector was picking up something strange, a pattern that didn't match anything natural. "What is this?" he whispered, his heart beating faster. The signal was growing stronger by the second. He rushed outside with his binoculars and looked up. At first he saw nothing unusual among the countless stars. Then a bright light appeared, moving in an unusual way. Too fast for a plane, too controlled for a meteor. "It can't be," June said, his mouth dry. The light grew bigger, leaving a trail of smoke as it cut through the night sky. Whatever it was coming down, and coming down fast. June watched as it disappeared behind the mountain ridge about 5 kilometers away. A few seconds later, the ground shook slightly. There was no bright explosion, just a dull thud that June felt more than heard. He stood frozen for a moment, his mind racing. Should he call someone? The authorities? No, not yet. He needed to see it first. June grabbed his emergency backpack that he always kept ready. It contained a first aid kit, water, some food, a flashlight, and other supplies. He jumped into his old truck and started driving toward where he thought the object had crashed. The dirt road was rough and June had to drive slowly. His headlights bounced off trees and rocks as he made his way deeper into the forest. After about 3 kilometers, the road ended. June parked his truck and continued on foot, using his flashlight to guide the way. The forest was quiet except for the sound of his footsteps and his own breathing. After hiking for almost an hour, June noticed a faint glow between the trees, ahead. He turned off his flashlight and moved forward carefully. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. A small craft about the size of a car was half buried in the ground. It was unlike any aircraft June had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and had a silvery blue color that seemed to shift in the moonlight. There was no visible damage except for the dirt and broken trees around it. "This is impossible," June whispered, but he knew what he was seeing. This was not made by humans. As he stood there, trying to make sense of it all, he heard a sound, a soft moan coming from behind a large rock near the craft. Slowly, June moved toward the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. Behind the rock, he found what looked like a young woman. But as he shined his light on her, he knew immediately she wasn't human. Her skin had a faint blue glow to it, and when she opened her eyes, they reflected the light like a cat's would. She was wearing what looked like a tight-fitting uniform made of a material June had never seen before. She was hurt. A cut on her forehead was leaking a liquid that was darker than human blood, and she was holding her side in pain. When she saw June, her eyes widened with fear. She tried to move away but winced in pain. "It's okay," June said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you." The woman, or rather the being, said something in a language June couldn't understand. It was melodic but completely foreign. June pointed to himself. "June," he said clearly. Then he gestured toward her with an open hand, asking for her name. She hesitated, then pointed to herself. "Nari," she said in a voice that sounded almost human, but with a musical quality to it. June smiled and nodded. He then pointed to her injuries and took out his first aid kit, showing it to her. "I want to help," he said, even though he knew she wouldn't understand his words. Nari watched him carefully, then nodded slowly. She reached for a small device attached to her wrist and pressed something. A soft light scanned June from head to toe. Then, to his surprise, the device began to speak in a robotic version of Korean. Translation mode activated. Limited vocabulary available. This unit is damaged. Requesting assistance. June stared in amazement. You can understand me?" he asked. The device translated his words, and Nari responded. The translation came through. Basic language patterns recognized. This one is injured. Ship damaged. Emergency protocol activated. Before June could respond, they heard the sound of helicopters in the distance. Nari's expression changed to one of panic. "Others coming? Authorities?" the translator asked. June nodded. "Yes, probably government or military. They must have tracked your crash." Nari's face showed fear. She grabbed June's arm. "Please, no capture. My people do not wish contact yet. Not ready. Help me hide." June had to make a decision quickly. The helicopters were getting closer. He looked at the frightened being in front of him. She was clearly intelligent, clearly afraid, and clearly in need of help. What would happen if the military found her? Tests, interrogations, maybe worse? In that moment, June made a choice that would change his life forever. "Come with me," he said, helping Nari to her feet. "Can you walk?" "Yes." Slowly came the translated reply. "We need to hurry. My truck is not far," June said, supporting her. "Wait," as they began moving away from the crash site. Nari looked back at her ship. "My data. Important." "No time," June said as the helicopter sounds grew louder. "We'll come back if we can." They moved through the dark forest as quickly as Nari's injuries would allow. The lights from helicopters began to sweep through the trees behind them. Just as they reached June's truck, they heard voices shouting and saw flashlight beams in the distance. June helped Nari into the passenger seat and covered her with a blanket. "Stay down and stay quiet," he told her. He started the truck and drove away slowly, lights off until they were far enough away. Only then did he turn on the headlights and head back to his cabin. As they drove, June glanced at the strange being sitting next to him. She was looking up at the stars with an expression of sadness. "You're home?" June asked, pointing upward. Nari nodded. "Very far," the translator said. "Thank you for helping. Why do you help?" June thought for a moment. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. "And because I've always believed we're not alone in the universe. I just never thought I'd be proven right like this." As his cabin came into view, June knew his life would never be the same. The quiet professor who watched the stars had just become the first human to help a visitor from among those very stars. What would happen next? He had no idea. But one thing was certain: the universe had just become a much more interesting place. The sun was rising when June's truck finally reached his cabin. He helped Nari inside, careful not to hurt her injuries more. The alien woman was weak but still alert, her strange eyes taking in everything around her. June's cabin was small but cozy. It had one main room with a kitchen area, a small bathroom, and a bedroom in the back. Books about space filled the shelves and star maps covered the walls. A large telescope stood by the window pointing at the sky. "You'll be safe here," June said, helping Nari to sit on his couch. "No one comes up here except me." Nari's translation device turned his words into her language. She nodded and said something that came out as, "Gratitude. This one is in your debt." June shook his head. "No debt. I just want to help." He pointed to her injuries. "May I?" After Nari nodded, June carefully cleaned the cut on her forehead. The wound wasn't deep, but her blood was strange. Darker than human blood and slightly thicker. He put a bandage on it, then gave her some water. "Your side. Are you hurt there too?" he asked, noticing how she was still holding her ribs. "Minor damage. Will heal," the translator said. "This body repairs quickly." June nodded and sat in a chair across from her. Now that they were safe, he had so many questions he didn't know where to start. "Your ship," he began. "Will others come looking for you?" Nari touched her wrist device. My people will search, yes, but device damaged in crash, signal weak. She looked around the cabin. What is this place? My home, June said. I study the stars here. I'm a teacher, a professor at a university in the city. I teach about space and planets. Nari's eyes lit up with interest. You study space? You seek knowledge of stars? Yes, June smiled. All my life. Nari seemed to relax a little. She pointed to herself. This one also studies. Science mission. Learn about Earth. This surprised June. You were studying us? For how long? Many cycles. Many years, the translator said. My people watch many worlds. Earth is special interest. But you never made contact before? Nari's expression turned serious. Council forbids direct contact. Humans not ready, they say. She seemed to search for the right word. Unpredictable. June couldn't help but laugh. I guess that's fair. We can be pretty unpredictable. As morning turned to afternoon, they continued to talk. Nari explained that her people, the Astrali, had been watching Earth for decades. They were a peaceful species who valued knowledge above all else. Their home was a planet orbiting a star that humans hadn't even named yet, many light years away. How did you get here then? June asked. If your home is so far? Nari tried to explain something about fold space and quantum corridors, but the translation device couldn't handle the complex scientific terms. June understood enough to know that the Astrali had technology far beyond what humans had achieved. They talked. June made some food. He wasn't sure what Nari could eat, so he offered her different things: bread, fruit, water. She examined each item carefully before trying small bites. She seemed to like apples the most. Your world has good tastes, she said, taking another small bite of apple. Later that day, June turned on his small TV to check the news. As he expected, there were reports about a meteor that had crashed in the mountains outside Seoul. The military had closed off the area for public safety. They found your ship, June told Nari, but I don't think they know what it really is yet. Nari looked worried. If they study ship, find technology, not good. Your ship had no weapons, right? June asked. Astrali not make weapons, Nari said firmly. Study only, peace only. She paused, then added, but technology, humans not ready. June understood her concern. Even peaceful technology could be dangerous in the wrong hands. That night, June gave Nari his bed and made a place for himself on the couch. Before they slept, Nari asked to see his telescope. Stars look different from Earth, she said as she looked through it. Beautiful. June watched her with fascination. Here was a being from another world, looking at the stars that were her home. It was like a dream come true for him. Can you show me your home? He asked. Nari adjusted the telescope slightly and pointed to a faint star. There. Not see well with this tool, but there. June looked through the telescope. It was just one of countless stars, but knowing that it was home to an intelligent species like Nari's made it special. How many other worlds have life? June asked. Many, Nari said simply. Universe very full, very alive. The next morning, June woke up to find Nari working on her wrist device. She had opened it up and was using small tools to adjust things inside. Fixing translator, she explained, and trying to boost signal to my ship. Will they come for you? June asked. Yes, but need to know where I am first. She looked up at him. You not fear? Most humans would fear me. June thought about it. Maybe I should be afraid, but I'm more curious than afraid. All my life I've wanted to know if we're alone in the universe. Now I know we're not. Nari smiled, a very human expression that surprised June. Curiosity good. Fear blocks learning. As days passed, they fell into a routine. June would go into the city for his teaching job and to get supplies, while Nari stayed hidden in the cabin, working on her device and learning about Earth from June's books and his small TV. Every evening June would return, and they would share what they had learned that day. Nari taught him about the stars from her perspective, and June taught her about human culture and history. One evening, about a week after the crash, June came home to find Nari excited. "Made contact," she said as soon as he entered. "Ship received. Signal. They know I'm alive." "That's great," June said, feeling both happy and sad. He was glad Nari could return home, but he had grown to enjoy her company. "When will they come?" "Not sure yet. Signal still weak. Need more power to send coordinates." June thought for a moment, then went to his storage closet. He returned with some old computer parts and electronic equipment. "Maybe we can use these to boost your signal," he suggested. Nari's eyes lit up. "Yes. Good thinking." They worked together, late into the night, connecting Nari's device to June's equipment. Their hands touched occasionally as they worked, and June noticed that her skin was warmer than a human's. He also noticed how graceful her movements were, how intelligent her eyes looked when she concentrated. As they finished their work, Nari looked up and caught June watching her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Nari's device beeped, breaking the silence. "Signal stronger now," she said, looking away. "Should reach ship soon." That night, as June tried to sleep on his couch, he realized something that both excited and scared him. He was beginning to care for Nari as more than just a scientific curiosity or someone who needed help. There was something about her. Her intelligence, her gentle nature, her view of the universe, that touched him deeply. But she was from another world, and soon her people would come to take her home. June stared at the ceiling, wondering what would happen next, and whether anything would ever be the same again. 2 weeks had passed since Nari crashed on Earth. Her injuries were healing well, and the signal to her ship was getting stronger each day. June continued his work at the university while keeping Nari's existence a secret. One evening, June returned to the cabin and found Nari sitting very still in front of his computer. Her eyes were wide and she didn't move when he entered. "Nari, are you okay?" June asked, putting down his bag. She turned to him slowly. Her translator device spoke in a flat tone. "This one has been learning. About humans. About Earth history." June noticed that the computer screen showed pictures of World War II. There were images of bombs, soldiers, and destroyed cities. "Oh," June said, understanding her shock. "You found our war history." Nari stood up, her movements stiff. "So much death, so much killing. Why? Why would humans do this to each other?" June sighed and sat down. How could he explain the darkest parts of human history to someone from a peaceful species? "War is part of our past," he said carefully. "Many humans fought against it. Many still do. We're trying to be better." Nari pointed at the screen. "This war ended, but then more wars came. Korea divided, Vietnam, Middle East." She looked at June with confusion in her eyes. "Your people make beautiful music, create art, look at stars, but also build bombs that can destroy worlds." "I know," June said quietly. "Humans are complicated." Nari walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "Now I understand why Council forbids contact. They fear humans would bring war to stars." June felt a need to defend humanity even though he knew Nari's fears were not wrong. "Yes, we have a violent history, but that's not all we are." He stood up and went to a shelf, taking down an old photo album. "Come, I want to show you something." They sat together on the couch as June opened the album. Inside were old black and white photos of an elderly woman. "This is my grandmother Hyun," June explained. "She lived through the Korean War when she was a little girl. She lost her parents and her home." Nari looked at the photos closely. So much sadness in her eyes. "Yes, but look at these later photos," June said, turning the pages to show more recent colored pictures. They showed an old woman surrounded by family, smiling, holding a baby June. She rebuilt her life. She finished school, became a teacher, raised my father, and helped raise me. She taught me to look at the stars, June showed more photos. His grandmother at his university graduation, in her garden, reading books to children at a library. After, seeing so much destruction, she spent her life creating and building. She taught hundreds of children. She planted trees that still grow today. June closed the album gently. That's also human nature. We can learn, we can change. Nari was quiet for a long time. Finally, she asked, "Can I meet her, your grandmother?" The question surprised June. "You want to meet her, but no one can know about you." "She sounds wise," Nari said. "I want to understand humans better." "Please?" June thought about it. His grandmother lived alone in a small house just outside the city. She rarely had visitors except family, and she had always told June that she believed in life beyond Earth. "Maybe," he said slowly. "But it would be risky." The next day was Saturday. June usually visited his grandmother on weekends, so it wouldn't seem unusual. He called her and said he was bringing a special friend. He gave Nari some of his clothes to wear: jeans, a hooded sweatshirt, and a face mask. The mask was common in Korea, so it wouldn't look strange. It would help hide her slightly unusual features. He also gave her a hat to cover her head. "Remember, don't take off your mask or hat," June reminded her as they drove to his grandmother's house. "And let me do most of the talking." Nari nodded, looking both nervous and excited. His grandmother's house was small and surrounded by a beautiful garden. As they walked to the door, Nari stopped to look at the flowers. "So many colors," she said. "Your world has beautiful plants." Hyun opened the door before they could knock. She was a small woman with white hair and a kind face lined with wrinkles. Her eyes were sharp and missed nothing. "June," she said with a smile, hugging her grandson. Then she looked at Nari with curiosity. "And who is your friend?" "Grandmother, this is Nari," June said. "She's from very far away. She's studying our culture." Hyun looked at Nari for a long moment, then smiled. "Well, come in. I made tea." Inside, they sat at a small table. Hyun poured tea for everyone. Nari kept her mask on but pulled it down slightly to sip her tea. "So, where exactly are you from, Nari?" Hyun asked. June tensed, but before he could speak, Nari answered, "Very far north." The translator made her voice sound almost normal. Hyun raised an eyebrow. "I see. And what do you think of our country so far?" "Beautiful," Nari said. "But confusing sometimes. So many different sides to humans." She's been learning about our history," June explained quickly. Hyun nodded slowly. "History can be hard to understand, especially for an outsider." For the next hour, they talked. Hyun told stories about her life, growing up during war, losing her home, finding hope again. She talked about building a life in a broken country, about seeing forests grow where bombs once fell. "The world changes," Hyun said, looking out her window at the garden. "Sometimes by force, sometimes by gentle hands planting seeds. I choose to plant seeds." As they talked, June noticed that Nari was becoming more comfortable. She asked questions about Hyun's life, about how she felt during hard times, about what gave her strength. "Love," Hyun answered simply. "Love for my family, for my students, for the future I couldn't see but believed in." When it was time to leave, Hyun walked them to the door. As June stepped outside, Hyun held Nari back for a moment. "You're not from the north, are you?" she asked quietly. "Or even from this world?" June froze, but Nari just looked at Hyun calmly. "How did you know?" "Nari," asked Hyun smiled. "I'm old, not blind. Your eyes shine differently. The way you move isn't quite human. And my grandson has been looking at the stars his whole life, waiting." She patted Nari's hand. "It's okay. Your secret is safe with me." Hyun turned to June. "You found what you were looking for, didn't you?" June nodded, speechless. "Good," Hyun said. "Everyone should find what they've been seeking." She looked back at Nari. "Judge us by our best, not just our worst, that's all I ask." On the drive back to the cabin, Nari was quiet, thinking about everything she had learned. "Your grandmother is very wise," she finally said. "She has seen the worst of humans but still believes in the best." June smiled. "She taught me to do the same." When they reached the cabin, Nari's device beeped. She checked it and looked up at June with a mixture of happiness and sadness. "My ship has received our coordinates," she said. "They will come in 3 days." June felt his heart sink, but he tried to smile. "That's good news. You can go home." Nari touched his hand gently. "June, I need to tell my people what I've learned here. The truth about humans. All of it. Good and bad." "What will they do with that information?" June asked. "I don't know," Nari admitted. "The council might still decide humans are too dangerous for open contact. Or they might see what I've seen, that despite your violent past, humans have potential for great good." She looked up at the night sky, stars reflecting in her strange eyes. 3 days, she repeated softly. 3 days until they come. Neither said what they were both thinking, that their time together was coming to an end just as they were beginning to understand each other. The next morning, June woke up early to find Nari already awake. She was looking at a small screen on her wrist device, her face worried. "What's wrong?" June asked, making some coffee. "Human authorities searching closer to here," Nari explained. "Your government has been tracking signals from my device." June looked out the window. The morning was quiet with no sign of trouble, but he felt uneasy. "How close are they?" "Too close," Nari said. "We should leave this place. Not safe anymore." June thought quickly. "My friend Han has a small cabin deeper in the mountains." "No, one knows about it. We could go there until your ship arrives." They packed quickly. Food, water, warm clothes, and Nari's equipment. As June was loading the truck, he saw a black car driving slowly up the road toward his cabin. "Nari, someone's coming," he called, rushing back inside. "We need to leave now." They slipped out the back door and into the forest behind the cabin. June led the way through the trees, moving as quietly as possible. They could hear car doors slamming and men's voices near the cabin. "Who are they?" Nari whispered. "Government agents, probably," June said. "They must have tracked your signal here." They moved deeper into the forest, staying off the paths. June knew these mountains well. From years of hiking and stargazing, he led Nari up steep slopes and through thick trees. After about an hour of walking, they stopped to rest on a large rock. Looking back, they could see June's cabin in the distance. Several black cars were now parked outside. "I'm sorry about your home," Nari said. June shrugged. "It's just a place. The important thing is that we're safe." They continued their journey, moving higher into the mountains. By midday, they reached a small stream where they stopped to drink and rest. "Your ship comes tomorrow night?" June asked. Nari nodded. "Yes, they will land on the highest peak." She pointed to a mountain in the distance. "There, we must be there when they arrive." June looked at the mountain. It was at least a day's journey away through difficult terrain. "We'll make it," he said with confidence he didn't fully feel. As they were about to continue, they heard a sound that made them both freeze, the whump, whump, whump of helicopter blades. Looking up, they saw a black helicopter flying over the forest, moving in a search pattern. "They're really serious about finding you," June said, pulling Nari under some thick trees for cover. The helicopter passed overhead without spotting them, but it was clear their situation was getting more dangerous. "Why are they searching so hard?" Nari asked as they continued walking, staying under the tree cover as much as possible. "Your ship, your technology. It's far more advanced than ours," June explained. "Some humans would do anything to get it. They could use it to make powerful weapons. But my ship has no weapons," Nari said. "It doesn't matter. Any advanced technology can be dangerous in the wrong hands." June helped Nari over a fallen tree. "And humans have a long history of using new discoveries to hurt each other." They walked for the rest of the day, moving steadily toward the mountain, where Nari's ship would land. As the sun began to set, they came to a small hunter's cabin hidden among the trees. "We can rest here tonight," June said, checking that the cabin was empty. Inside was simple. One room with a small stove, a table, and a bed. June started a small fire in the stove to warm the cold cabin, while Nari checked her device. Signal. Stronger here, she said. Ship confirms landing tomorrow night at peak. They ate some of the food they had brought and talked quietly. Outside, the forest grew dark and the stars came out. Will you be in trouble when you return? June asked. For making contact with a human? Nari was quiet for a moment. Yes, I broke our highest law. But I will tell them the truth of what I learned. That humans are complex, capable of great good and great harm. And what will your council do with that information? They might decide Earth must be contained, Nari said sadly. Sealed off from galactic community for many years until humans evolve past violence. June felt a heaviness in his chest at her words. And you? What do you think? I think, Nari began, then stopped as her device beeped loudly. Her face filled with alarm. Humans approaching, very close. They quickly put out the fire and gathered their things. Just as they were about to leave, they heard voices outside and saw flashlight beams through the windows. Back door, June whispered, leading Nari to a small door at the rear of the cabin. They slipped out just as the front door banged open. Running into the darkness of the forest, they could hear shouts behind them. This way. June grabbed Nari's hand and pulled her down a steep slope away from the voices. They ran through the night forest, stumbling over roots and rocks. The voices grew fainter behind them, but they kept moving, not daring to stop. Finally, after what seemed like hours, they came to a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. Exhausted, they crawled inside. We should be safe here for a while, June said, catching his breath. No one knows about this place. The cave was small but dry. They sat close together, listening to the sound of the waterfall outside. Their faces were lit only by the soft blue glow from Nari's wrist device. June, Nari said softly, I need to tell you something important. He looked at her, noticing how the dim light made her eyes shine like stars. My leaders. If they decide humans are too dangerous, they might erase all memory of my visit, all evidence of the crash. You mean they'll take away all signs of your ship? June asked. Not just ship, all memories too. Nari looked down. Anyone who saw me who knows about us, their memories would be adjusted. June felt a cold shock run through him. You mean I would forget you? Everything that happened? Nari nodded sadly. It is our way, to protect both worlds. But that's wrong, June said, louder than he intended. You can't just take people's memories without asking. I know, Nari said, that's why I'm telling you. I don't want them to do this. June was quiet, trying to process what she was saying. The thought of forgetting Nari, of losing all they had shared, felt worse than any physical danger they faced. Is there any way to stop it? He asked finally. I don't know, Nari admitted. But I will try. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of what might happen hanging between them. Finally, June reached out and took Nari's hand. Her skin was warm against his. Whatever happens, he said, even if they take my memories, I'm glad I met you. It changed how I see the universe. Nari looked at him, her eyes reflecting emotions that needed no translation. June, she began, but stopped, struggling to find words. Instead, she leaned forward slowly and touched her forehead to his, an astrali gesture of deep connection. June closed his eyes, feeling a strange warmth spread through him. My people share thoughts this way, Nari whispered. I cannot do it fully with humans, but I want you to know. Meeting you changed me too. When they pulled apart, something had shifted between them. They were no longer just human and alien, rescuer and rescued. They were two beings from different worlds who had found something rare and precious in each other. Outside, the night grew deeper. Tomorrow they would make the final journey to the mountain peak, where Nari's people would come for her. What would happen then? Neither of them knew. But for now, in the quiet of the hidden cave, They had this moment of connection that transcended the stars. Morning came with a soft light through the waterfall. June woke first and watched Nari sleeping peacefully beside him. Today was the day her ship would come. Today, everything would change. He stepped outside the cave to check if it was safe. The forest was quiet with no sign of the people who had chased them last night. Looking up at the mountain peak in the distance, June felt both hope and sadness. They still had a long way to go. When he returned to the cave, Nari was awake and checking her device. "Ship will land at sunset," she said. "We must reach the peak by then." They ate a quick breakfast and set off. The path grew steeper as they climbed higher up the mountain. Rocks made the going difficult and they had to help each other over the harder parts. By midday, they had climbed high enough to see far across the land. Looking back, June could see tiny black dots moving on the roads below. More government cars. "They're still searching," he said. Nari nodded. "We must move faster." As they continued climbing, dark clouds began to gather above the mountain. The wind grew stronger and the air turned cold. "A storm is coming," June said, looking up with worry. "It will make the climb more dangerous." They pushed on, climbing over rocks and through patches of mountain trees. Rain began to fall, making the rocks slippery. June gave Nari his jacket to keep her dry. "Tell me more about your home," June said as they climbed, partly to keep their minds off the difficult journey. "What is it like?" Nari's eyes brightened as she described her world. 3 moons in night sky. Cities built in tall trees. Lakes with water clear like air. My home city sits between 2 waterfalls. Buildings made of crystal that catch the light. It sounds beautiful, June said. "It is, but..." She paused. "Before coming here, I thought Earth was only violence and chaos. Now I see beauty here too. Different, but still beautiful." The rain fell harder as they continued to climb. Thunder rolled across the sky, and lightning flashed in the distance. By late afternoon, they were nearing the peak. The storm had grown worse, with strong winds and heavy rain. They were both wet and tired, but the top was now in sight. Just as they reached a wide ledge near the summit, they heard a sound that made their hearts sink. The whump, whump, whump of helicopter blades. Again, much closer this time. "They found us!" June shouted over the wind. A black helicopter appeared through the clouds, its searchlight cutting through the rain. It hovered above them, the wind from its blades making it hard to stand. "Run!" June grabbed Nari's hand, and they raced toward the peak. More lights appeared below them. Flashlights moved up the mountain path, people climbing after them. They were being surrounded. "We won't make it," Nari said, her voice filled with fear. "Yes, we will," June said firmly. "Just a little further." They reached the peak just as the sun was setting. Though it was hard to see through the storm clouds, the flat area at the top was small, maybe 20 meters across. The helicopter hovered nearby, unable to land in the strong winds. Nari checked her device. "Ship is coming," she said. "Very close now." Flashlights appeared at the edge of the peak. Men in black uniforms climbed up, surrounding them. One man stepped forward, tall with a hard face and cold eyes. "Professor June," the man said. "I am Director Park. You are harboring an extraterrestrial being. This is a matter of national security." "She's not a threat," June said, standing in front of Nari protectively. "That's not for you to decide," Director Park said. "Step aside, we need to take her into custody." "No." June stood his ground. "Her people are coming for her. They're peaceful. If you try to take her by force, you'll ruin any chance of peaceful contact." Director Park's face showed no emotion. "Men, secure the alien." The agents moved forward, but before they could reach Nari, a bright light cut through the storm clouds above them. It was so bright that everyone covered their eyes. A large ship appeared, hovering silently above the peak. It was similar to Nari's small craft, but much bigger, with the same shifting silver-blue surface. The wind and rain seemed to flow around it, not touching it. The government agents stopped in their tracks, staring up at the ship with a mixture of fear and awe. Even Director Park seemed unable to speak. A beam of light came down from the ship, touching the ground a few meters from where June and Nari stood. Within the light, a figure appeared, a tall being with the same features as Nari. The being stepped forward, and the beam of light disappeared. "Tai," Nari said with relief. Tai wore what looked like a uniform, more formal than Nari's clothes. He looked at the humans with caution, then spoke to Nari in their language. Their conversation was quick, with Nari gesturing toward June several times. Finally, Tai turned to look at the humans. He wore a device similar to Nari's, which translated his words. "I am Commander Tai of the Astrali science vessel. We have come for our scientist." Director Park stepped forward, seemingly having found his courage. "This is Earth territory. Your presence here is unauthorized." Tai regarded Park calmly. "We mean no harm. We will take our scientist and leave your world in peace." "Not so simple," Park said. "This alien has valuable information, technology that could benefit humanity." "No, it would not benefit," Tai said firmly. "It would harm. Your kind is not ready." While they spoke, Tai moved closer to Nari and June. He spoke quietly to Nari, who looked sad. "What is it?" June asked her. "Council has decided," she said softly. "Earth to be restricted zone. No contact for 100 years. 100 years? June couldn't believe it. "But that's protocol for worlds with advanced weapons but insufficient unity," Tai explained. "For your protection and ours." "Director?" Park was listening. "You have no right to make such decisions about Earth." "We have seen enough," Tai said. "Your people chase us with weapons even now. You prove our point." Another beam of light appeared from the ship. Tai turned to enter it, expecting Nari to follow. But Nari looked at June, then at the government agents, then back at Tai. "Wait," she said. Everyone stopped to listen. "Humans are not ready for full contact, yes," Nari admitted. "But isolating them is wrong. They need guidance, not abandonment." "The Council has decided," Tai said. "The Council doesn't know what I know," Nari argued. "They haven't seen what I've seen." She turned to look at June, her eyes filled with emotion. "This human saved me when he could have turned me in. He protected me at risk to himself. He showed me that humans can be kind, curious, and wise." Nari then faced Director Park and his men. "And yes, some humans are fearful and dangerous, but cutting them off from the galactic community will only keep them that way." "What do you suggest?" Tai asked, clearly surprised by her words. Nari took a deep breath. "Let me stay, as first ambassador to Earth, one link between our worlds." Tai looked shocked. "Stay? Impossible. The Council would never." "Tell them I volunteer," Nari said. "Tell them I believe humans have potential. They just need time and help." The peak fell silent except for the sound of the rain, which was beginning to ease. Everyone was watching Nari. June stepped forward. "If she stays, I will protect her and help her build understanding between our worlds." Tai looked between them, seeing something that made his expression soften. "You have formed a bond," he said quietly. Nari nodded. "I have learned that connections between different beings can be powerful. Maybe that's what humans need most, to know they're not alone in the universe." Tai was quiet for a long moment, then sighed. "I will take your request to the Council, but until they decide, you must return with us, Nari." Nari looked at June, her eyes sad. "I must go," she said, "but I will try to come back." "Will they erase my memories?" June asked. "No," Tai said, surprising them both. "Your memories will remain. A test, perhaps, to see if one human can keep our secret." Nari stepped toward June, taking his hands in hers. "Wait for me," she whispered. "Watch the stars." Before June could respond, Nari leaned forward and touched her forehead to his one last time. In that moment, June felt a rush of emotions and images, stars, distant worlds, and a promise to return. Then she stepped back and joined Tai in the beam of light. As they rose toward the ship, Nari kept her eyes on June until she disappeared inside. The ship hovered for a moment longer, then rose swiftly and silently into the night sky. In seconds, it was gone, leaving only stars behind. Director Park approached, June, who expected to be arrested. Instead, the man looked up at the sky with wonder on his face. "They're really out there," he said quietly. "Yes," June answered. "And they're watching us, waiting to see what we become." As they made their way down the mountain, June kept looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, Nari was speaking for humanity, fighting for a chance at connection, and June would be waiting, watching the night sky, knowing that the universe had become a much less lonely place.